Okay, welcome to lesson 4, more on verbs and sentence types in Latropeth. Let's get straight into it. Okay, an example of some verbs again. Ikiyis, to see, sipimyis, to cry, suyayis, to give or to tell, niyoyis, to go. Bear in mind that the verb itself can often determine the way the sentence looks. Let's revisit the sentence that I introduced you to in the last lesson. Piteyikiyis balum kuma. The boy sees the mountain. You will remember that if you're breaking the sentence down, you have a subject, the who or what is doing the action of the verb, an object, who or what is receiving the action of the verb, and the verb itself. So if you're talking about the boy sees the mountain, the boy is the subject, sees is the verb, and the mountain is the object. You will remember that in Latropeth, the order is verb, subject, object, as opposed to English, where the order is subject, verb, object. Piteyikiyis balum kuma. So you could say that ikiyis, the verb to see, is a verb that requires a sentence with an object. So linguistically, we call that a transitive verb. But there are other kinds of verbs, so let's have a look at what we have. We'll move on to the next one. Sipimyis, to cry. Now this verb requires a sentence with no object. It's pretty much the same in English. If you think about it, it's a simpler sentence. So if you have something like the person cries, you just have the subject, the person, and you just have the verb, and that's it. Same in Latropeth with this verb. The order again is verb first, so it would be cries the person literally. So you're only dealing with one prefix because all you have is a subject. So the prefix is the prefix that stands for noun class 3, because wuhum, person, belongs to noun class 3. Now let's look at another one. Suyayis, to give, requires two objects. So let's have a look at a sentence in isolation, in Latropeth and English, its translation in English, using the verb suyayis, to give. Pia suyanayis wuhum tifayema boye. The person gives the nuts to the squirrel. So I've actually repeated some words there in the translation. My apologies. If you think of this as a scene with several players, what do you have in this kind of a sentence, right? The who or what is actually doing the giving, who or what is being given, and who or what is being given to. So in a sense, you've got three players in the scene. Okay, so this sentence will actually contain a subject and two objects. So let's break it down and have a look. And so naturally in Latropeth the verb is going to be a bit more complex because it's going to have an extra affixed element. Piatsuyanayis wuhum tifayema boye. Let's have a look at the verb first. So the first prefix is referring to the subject. That's fairly straightforward. The subject here is a person. Wuhum belongs to noun class 3, so you get the prefix for noun class 3. The second one is noun class prefix 8, ah. Nouns referring to food will generally belong to noun class 8. So this is the who or what is being given. That's sometimes referred to as a direct object. And in this case, it's tifa, it's nuts. Nuts are what's being given. And because that is the direct object, if you like, in the scheme of things, that is what appears second in this kind of a sentence with two objects. Then you have the main part of the verb, suya, and then following that, you have another affix, which is for noun class 5, na. This is the one that is actually referring to the other object in the sentence, and you can just, in terms of the concept, you can refer to it as an indirect object, or probably more correctly in Latropeth here you'd probably refer to it as a prepositional object, but in any case it's the other object. The who or what is being given to, that's what appears, that's what's cross-referenced by a prefix directly after the main part of the verb. And the boye is one of the Wunim animals that's seen to have been created by the earth god Wunim. Those animals, nouns representing those animals, denoting those animals belong to noun class 5, and that's why you have noun class 5 prefix following the verb, and then you have yis, which is the general verb ending. Okay, and that's how the verb is structured. Pia suya na yis. Wuhum tifa yema boye, and you do have a word corresponding to to as well. So just like you would if you were saying in English, to the squirrel. Okay, so once again, the person gives the nuts to the squirrel. Pia suya na yis wuhum tifa yema boye. Let's move on. Now let's talk about verbs of motion. Okay, now with verbs of motion, generally an object is required in Latropeth, the object being the noun referring to the destination of the movement. The object prefix with a verb of motion is always class 2 prefix che. Sentences with reference to location and destination often have the word order verb, object, subject instead of verb, subject, object. To actually go into this, it's best to just illustrate it, so we'll just move straight on into an example. Nioyis, to go. Okay, so here's a sentence in isolation. Pi tienioyis pi palanakum. The man goes to the camp or settlement. Now, if you were... So basically you've got the verb there, and you would then expect, from what I've told you before in Latropeth, to then get the subject and then the object. And because you're dealing with a verb of motion, the subject will be the, in this case, so the man goes to the camp will be the man, the verb is of course goes, and then the object is actually the noun that's referencing the destination of the movement, which is the camp. And so you would expect it to be verb, subject, object. Goes the man, the camp, based on what I've told you so far. But with this kind of a verb of motion involving an object that's referring to the destination of the motion, you will often get in Latropeth a variation of the word order where it becomes verb, object, subject instead of verb, subject, object, and so you will actually have goes to the camp the man. So in the example, Pichinio yis pipalanakum. Let's have a look at it again, just breaking it down. The verb just has two prefixes because you're just basically dealing with a subject and an object. Prefix 3, prefix 2. The reason you have prefix 2 is because I just said a few slides ago that with verbs of motion, the object refers to the destination of the motion, and it is always on the verb marked as noun class 2. It's invariable. The first prefix P, referring to man, is pretty straightforward. You expect noun class prefix 3 because that's the noun class that the word man belongs to. So you have Pichenio yis pi palanakum. It's just that the order of things is a bit different. I just want to finish by talking about animate objects. So another lofty statement here, where the object of a sentence is a living thing, then the object is generally preceded with kaya or mun if the noun is honorific. What does that actually mean? Okay, so here's an example. So here we've got the man sees the raccoon. Pinayi ki yis nakum kaya kuhi. Nakum means man, kuhi means raccoon, and raccoon is preceded by kaya because it's an object and it's a living thing. Just finishing off, I mentioned that if it's honorific, instead of kaya you get mun. So just in isolation here, I've got an example sentence. The man sees the elder. Pi fayi ki yis nakum mun malto. Malto is the word for elder. And that's it for this lesson. Thank you, folks.